Hey, welcome to our show host series. I'm literally holding the mic like I'm a reporter today, but this is just the easiest way to do it. So I hope you take me as more of an official expert because I'm holding a microphone like I'm a reporter. I didn't want to bother with a stand. What I want to talk about today is something we've covered in other videos, but it's been a while. It's a recurring theme. You may have missed the other videos, and that is the age-old human fear of sounding dumb, looking dumb, and it's very relevant to media making, being a podcast host, being a show host, making video and audio content, being a thought leader, fill in the blank, any of these roles that you may be living in currently. It's so relevant, and I talk to clients all the time about it, whether we're just starting on a show, whether we're in the middle of it, whether we're about to launch, we've launched, they've been doing it for 100 episodes. This fear doesn't go away, and people can learn to manage it, and that's what we're going to talk about in today's video. But I just want to talk about the fear of looking and sounding dumb as a show host, because anytime someone voices that to me, I am the first to validate it and be like, it's so normal to worry. And here's some things to think about and to practice to let yourself make good content that serves your audience and furthers your goals despite that fear. I don't think that fear goes away for a lot of us. Practice absolutely helps, just like with anything. Over time, exposure therapy does help, but also because practice makes you better. And I think one of the things we want to talk about today is that there's no way to get better at making media, being a show host, sounding quote unquote smart or polished or whatever your perfectionism brain may be telling you need to do. There's actually no way to get better than to practice. Now, it doesn't mean you have to practice in public. You can practice in private. You can make content. You can make yourself record a video every week and not publish it anywhere. You can just do it for yourself to watch it back. You can give it to maybe a team member and be like, please give me feedback on this. You don't have to practice and be terrible in public, but some clients, absolutely, it's worth it to them to just start being a show host, knowing they're not going to be their best until a ways in. And it all depends on where you're starting from, right? So first things first, if you have previous experience being on camera or being on mic, speaking in a professional way or a conversational way or a comedic way, don't sell yourself short. You might have more skills than you realize. And that's where a producer can be very helpful at kind of objectively assessing what are your current skills, how much experience do you have. We have worked with clients at Worthwell Media who have decades or at least 10 years of experience doing public speaking, facilitating, teaching, making media. And so they are totally upfront about it. They're like, hey, I've gone through my learning curve already. I know that I can do single takes and they'll be fine. And even if they're not perfect, they're fine with it. So we've worked with people like that, and we've worked with everybody through the entire spectrum to the other end who has literally never been on mic or camera and is terrified. So what I want you to know is practice is your friend. It's the only way to get better, and it's a good place to start, no matter who you are. A lot of experience, a little bit of experience. First take of being a show host, probably not going to be your best, and that's totally normal, and there's nothing wrong with that. So you can either do a public practice where you are recording your first episode and it's just going to be what it is and it's going to be good enough, or you can do private practice. You maybe do 3 or 4 practice episodes with friends who are there for you and love you and don't ever expect that episode to see the light of day. You can do practice sessions with a producer or production team, with your team. You can do practices where you are maybe at a live event and you're moderating a panel or you're doing a Q&A with someone. That's an easy way to start practicing these things, right? Maybe it's not recorded or maybe it is, but it's a live event, so people have a lot more forgiveness. There's lots of ways to practice, but I think it's the most helpful tip. If you're afraid of sounding dumb or looking dumb as a show host, you just start practicing. And for most people, you're probably very busy, so you might be practicing quote unquote in public. But here's where step number 2 to overcoming this fear comes in, and that's editing. Obviously, you know that at Worthwell Media, we have unedited packages for clients all the way to highly edited and produced packages. But it's an important thing to consider if you have a really big fear about sounding dumb. I probably would not choose an unedited show because one of the perks of editing is that you have either one of your team members or a production team going through your entire recording and making you sound your best. They're helping clean up misspeaks and flubs and maybe some nerves. You might have nerve. That was amazing that I messed up saying verbal tics. You might have verbal tics, which are totally normal, like, clearing your throat. Those are really common. So if you feel like that makes you sound dumb, and for you, that's just really scary to put that out there, editors can do a great job at polishing that for you. So think about that when you think about the budget and the scope of work that you want to put into a show. If you're really worried about sounding dumb and you're like, I don't think I'm very good at filtering myself, editing is really good at that. And it's really helpful to have someone else edit your show so that they can kind of be that objective third party and maybe even edit out something you said that you know what you were trying to say, but it didn't come across the right way. Editors can be really good at kind of cleaning that up for you. So that's tip number 2. Tip number 1 is practice. Tip number 2 is hire an editing team. And there's all different price points and ways you can do that. Some people on occasion decide to edit their own shows simply to become better as show hosts, making themselves watch back their raw recordings. That's rare, and obviously it's a time investment, but it's very effective. So just sharing with you, every once in a while, somebody does choose to do that. And if you have the time and bandwidth, it's extremely instructive and helps you become better much quickly. So tip number 3 on this fear of sounding dumb and looking dumb is to be very compassionate with yourself. And a lot of pieces of our society don't train us to do that, and it is kind of a learned skill for many of us, but it's actually really important. If you're a media creator, if you're a show host, giving yourself compassion to not be perfect and to love yourself despite some of the things you do that maybe aren't the smartest things you've ever done or said is important, because expecting yourself to perform at a perfection level or super professional standard every day, especially as a podcast host, if you're a professional news anchor, that is your job and that is what you learn to do. And there's all sorts of tricks of the trade to do that. But if you're a founder, executive coach, consultant, speaker, author, normal person doing good work in the world, and have a podcast or a YouTube show because you are trying to share the knowledge that you've gained and to a target audience and make things better for people and blah, 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 likely you have not spent tens of thousands of hours becoming a professional media personality. And so it's important to have compassion, because if you hold yourself to that standard, you'll probably never get there. It would never make sense for you to spend that much time becoming a professional media personality. And the truth is, trends-wise, data-wise, research-wise, all across the world, and definitely in the US, audiences have way more appetite for quote-unquote unfiltered, authentic, all these buzzwords. And they like to see a little bit of that humanity, a little bit of that relatability, not to an extent that it's annoying or boring to watch, but if you can be real, just like I was in this video and was well, I just messed up my words trying to say verbal tic. Now you know it's okay to leave that on camera. You may look at these videos and be wow, Christine's a professional producer, but it's also okay that I left that tic in, because that's just me being a normal human, and I didn't mess up my message by leaving that in. So those are my 3 tips in this video: practicing, editing, and being compassionate with yourself. And this is just the beginning. There's a lot more that you can do to overcome the fear of sounding and looking dumb. Hiring an on-camera coach or a speaking coach can go miles if you have a pretty massive fear. And I don't want to skip over those resources because they can be so helpful, and I have great recommendations if you're looking for either of those. But if you're a regular creator, you have a show you're trying to deliver, you don't have a ton of time to become a super expert on this, you can just start with those tips and know that you're in really good company. So I hope that helps. We'll probably cover this in a future video because it'll probably come up again. But if you have more questions or you want more resources, feel free to leave a comment, subscribe to the channel, and we'll see you in the next video.